Can you guess how many microplastic particles the average person consumes in a year? Is it 100, 1,000, 10,000, or 50,000? If you guessed 50,000, you're almost correct. A 2019 study estimates that this number rises to 121,000 when inhalation is considered. If you drink only bottled water, you could ingest an additional 90,000 microplastics annually, compared to just 4,000 for tap water. Although these figures vary, they are likely underestimated due to limitations in data and methodology. Sources of microplastics. Microplastics, tiny plastic particles less than 5 millimeters in size, originate from a wide range of sources and have become an inescapable part of modern life. Understanding where these microplastics come from can shed light on the extent of the problem and how they enter our environment and bodies. One of the most significant sources of microplastics is the breakdown of larger plastic waste. Plastic items like bottles, bags, and packaging materials don't biodegrade, but instead fragment into smaller and smaller pieces when exposed to sunlight, wind, and water. Over time, these tiny particles accumulate in the environment, particularly in our oceans and water systems, contributing to the widespread presence of microplastics in marine life. A surprising source of microplastics is personal care products such as exfoliating scrubs, toothpaste, and cosmetics. Many of these products contain microbeads, tiny plastic particles added for texture or exfoliation. Despite bans in several countries, these microplastics still find their way into our waterways through domestic wastewater systems, where they are difficult to filter out in wastewater treatment plants. Every time we wash clothes made from synthetic materials like polyester, nylon, and acrylic, tiny plastic fibers are shed and released into the wastewater. These microfibers are too small to be effectively captured by water treatment systems, and they eventually enter rivers, lakes, and oceans. It's estimated that a single load of laundry can release hundreds of thousands of plastic fibers into the environment. When vehicles are driven, the wear and tear on tires release microplastics into the environment. These particles, known as tire wear particles, are produced from the abrasion of synthetic rubber as tires roll over surfaces. Rainwater often washes these particles into storm drains, eventually carrying them into rivers, oceans, and even the air we breathe. Disposable plastic packaging, such as food containers, straws, and plastic cutlery, is another major contributor. These items, often used for only a few minutes, can persist in the environment for hundreds of years, breaking down into microplastic particles that contaminate food, soil, and water. Microplastics have become pervasive in our environment, exposing humans to these particles through various pathways, each of which poses distinct health risks. Let's explore how microplastics enter our bodies and the potential health effects associated with this exposure. Microplastics are commonly ingested through contaminated food and water. Seafood, fruits, vegetables, and bottled water can contain tiny plastic particles. Once ingested, microplastics can disrupt the digestive system. They may cause inflammation in the gut, interfere with nutrient absorption, and damage the intestinal lining. Over time, repeated exposure can contribute to digestive disorders and even introduce toxic chemicals like BPA and phthalates into the body, increasing the risk of chronic diseases. We also inhale microplastics present in the air, particularly indoors from dust, synthetic fabrics, and household items. When these particles enter the respiratory system, they can become lodged in the lungs, leading to irritation and inflammation. This inhalation of microplastic fibers may contribute to respiratory conditions such as asthma and bronchitis. Long-term exposure could impair lung function and heighten the risk of developing chronic respiratory diseases. Microplastics can also be absorbed through the skin, especially from personal care products like exfoliating scrubs and cosmetics. Although skin is a relatively strong barrier, damaged or compromised skin may allow microplastics and their associated chemicals to penetrate. These particles could introduce endocrine-disrupting chemicals, potentially leading to hormonal imbalances and reproductive health issues. There is growing concern that microplastics can enter the bloodstream through the gut or lungs and accumulate in various organs. Once in the bloodstream, microplastics may circulate through the body, potentially reaching the liver, kidneys, and other tissues. Accumulation of these particles may lead to chronic inflammation, cellular damage, and an increased risk of diseases like cancer or cardiovascular conditions. While significant strides have been made in understanding the environmental impact of microplastics, much remains unclear about their long-term effects on human health. Current research on microplastic toxicity is still in its early stages, and we face several gaps in our understanding. For example, we don't yet know the exact quantities of microplastics that are harmful or how prolonged exposure may impact different systems within the body. Additionally, there is little consensus on how microplastics interact with chemicals or other environmental pollutants, which may increase their toxicity. One of the major challenges in studying the long-term effects of microplastic exposure is the difficulty of measuring these tiny particles in complex biological systems. Since microplastics come in various shapes, sizes, and chemical compositions, studying their full impact requires more advanced techniques and long-term observational studies. This also makes it challenging to isolate the specific health risks posed by microplastics from those associated with other pollutants. To address these gaps, we need comprehensive multidisciplinary research efforts that combine environmental science, toxicology, epidemiology, and public health. While eliminating plastic entirely from our lives may not be feasible in the near future, taking steps to reduce its use and limit exposure is crucial. Here are some practical tips for reducing your exposure to microplastics. Opt for products made from organic and biodegradable materials, such as cotton or hemp, glass containers, and stainless steel for food storage. These alternatives to plastic are durable, reusable, and have a significantly lower environmental impact. Unlike synthetic materials, natural fibers don't shed microplastics when washed or discarded. One of the most effective ways to reduce microplastic exposure is to avoid single-use plastics, which are a major contributor to plastic pollution. Items like plastic bags, straws, cutlery, and packaging can be replaced with more sustainable options, such as cloth bags, metal or bamboo straws, and reusable containers made from glass or stainless steel. While some argue that stainless steel may carry risks, it remains a safer alternative to plastics that release harmful chemicals. Look for brands and companies that prioritize sustainability and use eco-friendly materials. Many manufacturers are now offering biodegradable packaging and products made from recycled or natural materials. Supporting these businesses encourages the shift toward more sustainable production methods and reduces the demand for plastics. On a larger scale, advocating for stricter regulations on plastic production and pollution can help drive systemic change. Governments can implement policies to limit the use of microplastics in products, enforce recycling programs, and promote alternatives to plastic. Push for more transparency and accountability from manufacturers regarding the environmental impact of their products. Awareness is key to reducing microplastic pollution. By staying informed and educating others about the issue, you can help drive change at both an individual and community level. Share practical tips on reducing plastic use, support organizations working to combat plastic pollution, and encourage friends and family to make more eco-conscious choices. Reducing plastic use in favor of natural, organic, and biodegradable alternatives is not only an immediate step toward lowering microplastic pollution, but also a long-term investment in a healthier planet. While we still have much to learn about the full scope of microplastics' impact on human health, taking proactive steps now to limit exposure can make a meaningful difference. Stay healthy.